This is part 2 of the Whistleblower reports against Kelly Losko, former controller of ad agency McGarryBowen, which is now Dentsu Creative. If you missed part 1, after dealing with Kelly Losko's everyday general bigotry and ignorance for 2 years, I resigned in protest after she told me she was using the application I built as senior business systems engineer as a scapegoat to lay off employee Kimberly Gray because it is too hard to fire, and I quote, a regard, swap the G for a T, because of the Americans with Disabilities Act. I reported her reign of terror directly to then-CFO Christine Moore on the way out and to HR's Caitlin Golden, who reported to Meagan Halpin in my exit interview. I recorded the conversation with the CFO and sent it to several employees in the finance department with similar experiences. I told them Christine Moore seemed receptive and her door was open. What follows is the email forwarded to me by another employee, which is his correspondence with Christine Moore after he filed grievances of his own. I preserved the email, the original headers and metadata, so it is submissible in court. I will keep his name anonymous until he is subpoenaed, at which point TMZ will surely be present at the trial because he later became famous and won a Pulitzer and a Tony. The evidence demonstrates McGarryBowen, Dentsu Creative, was made more than aware of multiple and credible accusations of discrimination and mistreatment in the workplace by Kelly Losko. Not only was nothing done, they made efforts to completely cover it up. Kelly Losko was allowed to fail upward into CFO of another company. Caitlin Golden was allowed to fail upward to head of HR at Dentsu, where she still resides. This puts Caitlin in charge of overseeing the response to employment verification requests for potential employers that have been rejecting my job application for years. I believe not only have they covered up Kelly Losko's behavior, they have punished me for exposing it, which violates New York labor law S.5870, signed in 2022. This establishes that the release of personal records to discredit a victim of workplace discrimination or a whistleblower is itself a form of illegal retaliation. If HR shared my disciplinary file or negative internal reviews with potential employers to warn them off. Let's subpoena those records before they illegally delete them if they haven't already. Christine Moore writes to the other employee, thanks for our chat the other day. It means a lot to me and will handle accordingly. Please let everyone know I have an open door policy and no one should feel uncomfortable at work with anyone. Thanks again. We're all in this together and should all love waking up in the AM to go to work. Not Saturday and Sunday, smiley face. Signed, Christine. The employee responds, hi, Christine. No, thank you for listening. I felt like I was rambling, but it was a real burden off to get it out. If you'll allow, there was one item that I meant to bring up that I felt was really important to address. I supervised 2 admins in our group, Dion Henry and Elliot Castillo, both of whom were temp to hire and did not interview for their positions. On the occasion of Elliot's first review, which was also my first in a supervisory role, Kelly asked that I submit my evaluation to her before I gave it to him. I filled out the rating system, got peer evaluations, and wrote a narrative detailing his successes and areas for improvement. When I submitted it to Kelly for review, she pulled me into a meeting with Raj Senga, who supervised the media payable side of his role, and informed me that I needed to change the ratings I gave him on communication. I had given him average marks, but Kelly felt that I should give him much lower marks because it was her impression that he really struggled in that area and that given his ambitions to earn his CPA and become an auditor, the way he spoke would hinder his ability to get ahead in the financial world. She went on to say that, quote, we never would have hired him if he interviewed talking like that. You know what I mean? End quote. The truth is that I didn't know exactly what she meant, and I was too nervous to ask. However, Elliot is Latino and lives in Spanish Harlem, and far be it from me to suggest that she was casting any aspersions or making any negative associations between his background and his communication ability, but that's the impression it left on me. Her asking me, quote, you know what I mean, felt as if she wanted me to be complicit, which I refused to do. I pivoted, and I said that I could suggest that Elliot take some public speaking courses to help with his shyness/lack of confidence as a public speaker, which is what ended up on the review. Now, I would chalk that all up to paranoia on my part, except that it is my understanding that John Kolodziak was in a meeting with Kelly more recently and expressed that a member of his team, Akeisha Dorsett, was interested in moving up in the group. And Kelly mentioned that there might be a spot opening in billing, but that it was a client-facing and that putting her in that role might be tricky because Akeisha, quote, has an accent. Now again, that's hearsay, but if it's true, it deepens my impression that there's a real glass ceiling for minorities to excel in our group, which I hope isn't true. I would also add, and this may seem somewhat trivial, but I stand behind it, that there are a number of young people at this agency, Melissa Savino is one who springs to mind, who communicate using a tick called vocal fry. See the clip below if you're unfamiliar with it, or who speaks in questions. And to my ear, that sounds just as unprofessional as I imagine Kelly must feel those who talk like that, or have accents, in quotes, sound. And yet, there is still little to no stigma placed upon them in our business setting. And perhaps there shouldn't be. We're all different. We all come from different walks of life and different backgrounds, and that is a great thing. All I would hope for is that in this department, we could all be held to the same standard, and that those in leadership roles would learn to exercise not only self-awareness about what impacts the things they say and do have on those they lead, but also learn to consistently exercise empathy and good ethics. Then there's a CBS News link to what vocal fry is. Unfortunately, the majority of those who would be in a position to share their experiences of working in this department have left the agency. But I've mentioned to a few others that your door is open if there is any feedback that they would care to share with you about our leadership. I apologize for not being more brief. Thank you very much for your time. Let's go to court.